Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I think people are still coming in, but I'll get started. If you could please turn on your videos also. Okay, so my name is Lazifa Mahmoud. I am one of the coordinators of the COOL Summer Program. I will start the program with an overview of the COOL Summer School and our panel today. So COOL is a STEM program integrated with Allah awareness in a cool environment. Our programs are designed based on a balanced integration of Islamic perspectives on contemporary issues, technological know-hows, and hands-on activities. We have 3 tracks this year, scientific research internship prep for grades 10 to 12, web application development track for grades 7 to 10, and we also have faith and fun activities alongside these classes. We have a total of 31 students in the program currently, and 15 in the research and 16 in web app development. So every Saturday we have a panel discussion on different topics to enlighten these students. Today's panel will be on the topic of preparing for college and careers. I know a lot of people here are preparing to go to college, and others have already applied for college. Whether you are interested in learning more about the college lifestyle or what major to choose or just how different it will be from high school, you can ask our panelists today. We will try our best to get through most of these questions. So some of our panelists here are recent graduates or still in college or are adults who can talk about their careers and lifestyles. Inshallah, we will get to hear a lot of your opinions on college applications, careers, and just how you think these students should prepare themselves for the future. So without further ado, I will introduce Sister Dania Chowdhury, who will be the moderator of today's panel discussion. Dania Chowdhury is a 2019 graduate of the University of Maryland, College Park. She studied bioengineering and is currently working as an associate scientist at the Vaccine Research Center under NIH. During her middle school and high school years, Dania was an active participant in MAFIC Foundation events, including EPC and MIGT, and is now one of the head coordinators of EPC. She also enjoys volunteering her time to help out with other MAFIC Foundation platforms as much as she can. Mr. Dania Chowdhury, if you would like to continue from here.
Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is Dania, and just like Nazifa mentioned, I graduated from the University of Maryland last year, and I did bioengineering, and I'll be moderating today's panel discussion. So like Nazifa mentioned, today's discussion will be on college and career prep. And I know that I think we have both middle schoolers, but also high schoolers who are, in the process of thinking of what they want to do next. I remember the time and how stressful it was trying to figure out what I want to do, not only in college, but afterwards. And I'm still trying to figure that out post-grad. So we have both young professionals, people who just graduated, as well as people who have been in their fields for a long time that will be in today's panel discussion. And I hope that it will be beneficial for everyone and that you'll learn a lot, because I know that especially now we're in the time of COVID-19 and like so much uncertainty and trying to figure out what it is that you want to do on top of that. But inshallah, I hope that we learn a lot, and I'll start off by asking some questions, but then again, feel free to write up your own questions, I think in the chat box, or raise your hand. So I'll start by introducing the panelists. First, we have Namira Anjum. She is 18 years old and just graduated from Lake Braddock Secondary School this year and will be attending the University of Virginia in the fall, inshallah. She'll be majoring in business. Next, we have Haris Ansari. Haris graduated in 2018 from the University of Maryland in physiology and neurobiology and received his master's from Georgetown University and is looking to go to medical school, inshallah. Next, we have Yahya Chima. Yahya has graduated from the University of Maryland and is still finishing up some classes. He did bioengineering, a great major, just saying. And he'll be starting his PhD at UMD, inshallah. Then we have Ibrahim Darwish. He graduated from the University of Maryland in 2018. He has developed apps and is an entrepreneur, and currently he works with Oculus in California, but is back in Maryland for the time being due to COVID-19. Then we have Dr. Nazrul Islam. He has a PhD in agricultural science. He did schooling in Japan, then worked in Australia for a bit before finally settling in America, where he actively does scientific research for government agencies. In his free time, he volunteers and organizes Let's Read, Wana Youth, weekly halakas in the community, and many more events. He is one of the coaches of the winning teams for Mafiq debate and has brought students to our Mafiq and iRead programs. Then we have Brother Ayman Nassar, who is the founder and former chairman of ILIA. He has over 25 years of experience in enterprise architecture, enterprise and individual transformation, youth development, project program management, and systems engineering and architecture, where he managed over $0.25 billion in projects. Over the past 20 years, he has coached, taught, and counseled thousands of youth and young professionals. He has been a certified mentor and coach with Big Brother, Big Sister, Lutheran Social Services, Darul Taqwa, Prince George's Community College, Asian Latino, African Native American, or ALANA, New Beginnings Youth Center, and Howard County Detention Center and ILIA. And then we have Sister Doha Nassar, one of my good friends, who is a second grade teacher in Montgomery County. She graduated from the University of Maryland, College Park, with a bachelor's in elementary education and a minor in human development. She enjoys building relationships with her students and reading literature that promotes character and community building. When she's not in the classroom, you can find her at the gym, spending time in nature, or attempting new dishes in the kitchen. And then last but not least, we have Shahina Rahman, who is a mother of 2 girls and currently works at Hayfield Secondary School. She teaches biology, human anatomy, and physiology to students who want to go into the medical field. Some of her interests are listening to Islamic lectures and talking to youth about different topics. She is part of the Muslim Youth Club and the medical club at Hayfield School. In her spare time, she holds halakas in the community with adults and youth, including spending Saturdays with teenagers answering questions at the Medina Masjid. So as you can tell, we have a whole range of people in today's panel discussion. I'm really excited to hear from them. So before I get into the questions,
before we continue, I already put this in the chat, but just a disclaimer, this is being live streamed and recorded. So for everyone to know that this is recording. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So before I get into the questions, why don't we virtually go around to the panelists and kind of, I know I introduced you guys, but say a little bit more about yourself. So why don't we start with Sister Namira?
Okay, hi, assalamu alaikum. So I graduated from Lake Braddock this year. And I really think that like I have a lot of information about like how to prepare for your SATs and how to do well on AP exams as well. Because Lake Braddock was a very like competitive environment, so it taught me to be like very acute and like have a good study habit and just be overall do well in my academics. And so I'll be attending the University of Virginia this fall. And I'll be majoring in business if I get into their business school, inshallah. And yeah, I'll be hopefully majoring in business IT specifically, but yeah.
Cool. Okay, so next, Haris.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you guys for having me. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala. So They gave the general background. Alhamdulillah, I graduated from University of Maryland College Park in 2018 with a bachelor's in neurobiology and physiology on the pre-med track, and then I did my master's in physiology and biophysics with a specific focus on complementary and alternative medicine this year, alhamdulillah, from Georgetown. I'm currently working in a lab at Georgetown. We're working on publishing some research as it relates to COVID. I've worked with college students in the past. I have done some mentoring, some tutoring for calculus, physics, biochemistry, organic chemistry, and I've worked and helped students making strong personal statements and essays so they can get accepted to good colleges and universities. And also, I do do some mentoring for pre-med students that are applying to medical school, what classes they want to take, what majors they should do. So inshallah, we can get into that in today's discussion, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Next, Yahya.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I am currently technically still at UMD, University of Maryland, in bioengineering, but as of July 31st, inshallah, I'll be graduating and doing a PhD program there in the fall. I've been doing bioengineering for the past 4 years. I did a few research ventures, different kind of programs also. So if anybody's interested in research, maybe we can touch upon that. But overall, just a lot of engineering experience at University of Maryland, as I'm sure Danya knows.
Yep. Next, Ibrahim.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Sorry, my camera's not on, but I appreciate all the organizers and everyone for attending. So it was a good introduction. Jazakumullah khairan. I did electrical engineering at the University of Maryland, but pretty early on, I found out that I had a passion for coding. And so I started a lot of like entrepreneurial projects. So I still run a couple projects, here and there. And right now I'm working at Oculus at Facebook. So what they do is we work on VR headsets, virtual reality, and we just try to build cool stuff. So that's it. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you. Brother Nazrul.
He might be a little late today. Maybe we can get to it later.
Yeah, that's fine. Brother Ayman.
I don't think he's here yet either.
Is your dad coming?
I'm not sure. I can double check for you and let you know.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So do you want to go next then?
Sure. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. As Danya said, I graduated from the University of Maryland in 2019 with a bachelor's in elementary education and a minor in human development. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today and kind of just hear the kinds of questions you have. As Danya mentioned, going into college is definitely a stressful experience as you try to navigate, what you should major in, try to figure out the best study habits. So I'm excited to kind of hear your perspective and see how I might be able to help you out, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you. And then lastly, Sister Shahina.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, everyone. So as you heard about me, I teach in high school. It's Hayfield is a secondary school, meaning it has middle school and high school. And I've been teaching there for 15 years. And this coming year will be the 16th year. So I do hear a lot of things from students, their struggle with school, with home life and all that. So whatever questions you have, hopefully I'll be able to answer some of them and give you what other students maybe have done to deal with some of your concerns and questions. Yeah, so we'll have a good time.
Yes, inshallah. So thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. So I'm gonna get into the questions. We have a lot of questions written up. I don't know if we're gonna be getting through all of them, but we will try. So I wanna start off with obviously, when you are applying for college, you're now trying to figure out or think about what exactly do I want to do. Like I remember the only reason I chose bioengineering was because I loved biology, I liked math, and I was like, okay, let me put it together. There's bioengineering. So what advice do you guys have for these high schoolers or even middle schoolers in choosing the quote unquote right major? What do you think are the more beneficial majors in today's society, or what went on in your deciding process of why you decided to choose that specific major? Why don't we start with Namira, because I know you just, applied and got in, mashallah. So why don't you go first, and then we can start from there.
Okay, thank you. So for me, for UVA specifically, we don't have to declare a major until the end of our second year. But I just like it's based on a lot of the classes you're probably going to see if you like bio, if you like chemistry. I personally did not like any of my science classes, so I did not steer any way towards like a science major. But and then there's also like comp sci classes that you can take to see if you like coding. It was basically just the classes that I took in high school that helped me decide what major I wanted to do. And I still don't know if I want to do business, because it all could change within the next 2 years. I don't know. But yeah, it's just this classes you take and see what your strengths are, what your passions are, and you can decide from there.
Thank you. Who wants to go next?
I can add on to what she said, inshallah. Kind of going off of the whole following your passions, I think that's really good advice to give. In today's society, there's a lot of emphasis on going into like the techie kind of field. So IT, computer science, engineering, all of those fields. And I think that adds a lot of pressure. I think especially in our Muslim community, there's a lot of pressure to go into like computer science, medicine, like all of those science related fields. So I think find what you're passionate about and then see how you can use that in today's workforce. So I always knew I enjoyed working with children. I chose education just because I liked working with kids throughout, like, elementary, middle school, high school. Like I was always with kids, so I knew I wanted to go into education. But I'm listening to stuff that a few of my friends had talked about. Some of them were passionate about like biology, but then once they started taking those bio classes, once they got into their like bio major, they kind of were like, this is just too much for me. I don't want to go into this anymore, but I do enjoy the subject. At the same time, I enjoy working with like youth. So they decided to switch into the secondary education. And so you can still take your passion and kind of figure out where it best fits for your personality, like what you want to achieve, and kind of use that to help you navigate what major to choose.
Yeah, I think I can speak to that. I think what you just explained, I think I fit into that because I came to the United States. I started 6th grade here, and we're from Bangladesh. So of course, the only 2 careers in Bangladesh that parents know is engineer or doctor, and I really didn't have any choice. I had to be one of those 2, and that was it. And I going to school, I did like biology. I fell in love with human anatomy and physiology in high school in Chicago. But I was not, that's just me. I was not going to go to school for 10 years to become a doctor. That was not me. So, my other passion was just, being with the kids, teaching and all that. So I kind of just combined the 2, and at the end became a biology and human anatomy teacher. So I think it's really important to, going back to what others have said, it's really important to know yourself. I know there is, there is a certain cultural expectation that we have in our homes, but at the end of the day, you really have to be happy with what you are doing, and the only way I feel that you're going to be happy is if you know yourself and what you want to do, where you would fit in, and that's really important. Now, having said that, I'm also going to add one more piece to it, just because I feel that that this, I know this, you guys have heard this, it's like follow your passion and all this. Having said all that, you certainly should. At the same time, I think it's important to do your research as far as what kind of careers are out there for the field that you are feeling inclined towards, okay? The reason I say that is because, you know, like I told you, I've been teaching for 15 years in high school. So I get students that are, they visit back from college, even post-college. I run the science fair there at the school. So I usually recruit my old students to be judges for the science fair and so on. So I do see them. So one thing that I want to say on that light is that many times I see my you know, old students when they come back as adults, as college graduates, is that they didn't really take the time to do the research as far as what kind of careers are out there for that field. And so once they have graduated and they're going out there to find a job, they're really struggling to even know where to apply, you know, and where they would where they might have to go to apply, what kind of jobs are out there. So at the end, you don't want to be in a position where you spent 4 years in college or 5 years in college, whatever that number, you know, years is, and at the end you come out with a piece of paper and a school t-shirt. You don't want that to happen at the same time. So I think it's really important that you really know yourself, and that you, by knowing yourself, that you pursue in those careers, but do your research, be thorough about it, you know, like what kind of, for example, I will tell you, we have I remember we have a teacher in our school. He's a history teacher. He majored in history in college and he was not getting any jobs, right? And at our school, he decided he was going to be a go-getter. He was not going to take no for an answer. Now, that's a personality not everybody has. If you don't have a go-getter type of personality and you're just kind of this quiet, go with the flow, you know, I'm this laid back kind of a guy, then maybe in certain careers, that's, you know, it's not going to go well. You know, so that is, you know, knowing yourself, and also to do the research in the field that you're going in, to know what you need and how to equip yourself. I think it's very important.
Thank you so much,
Can I
Dr.
also,
Samina. Sorry, yeah, go on.
can I also add to, I think that's great advice, because I think one of the most important things that someone has to do is evaluate what their goals are in life. What do I hope to accomplish? And your career is a mechanism to accomplish that, right? But it's also not, you're not held hostage to it. You know, people pivot in their lives, they change careers, they can start off as one major, they decide to try something else. I think it's very, very important in your research to talk to people that are in that profession and see what their life is like day to day. You know, what are things that they enjoy about their jobs? What are things that they don't like? And talk to as many people as you can, and to get a better perspective. But also, a lot of universities have different clubs, and joining the clubs for the different professions, you can kind of understand also what kind of people work in that professions, because these are people are going to be your colleagues, right? So yeah, that's I think that's really important. You know, when I started off my studying, my plan was to study electrical engineering and then do law school after it. And I realized very quickly that I didn't want to continue studying. And even in electrical engineering, I was more interested in the programming aspect. But but I still found value in electrical engineering itself. So just because you are doing, just because you are working in a certain profession doesn't mean that you're limited to it. There, you can always explore.
Is it all right if I add on to that?
Yeah, of course.
So I think I'm pre-med myself, and I've coached the 2 or 3 people this past application cycle, and we helped get them into medical schools and what their goals were and these kinds of things. And I think what Ibrahim and Sister said before is very important. It's not just enough knowing about what the job entails or what kind of work you want to go into. It's also what is a life like. You guys are young right now, but as soon as you get into college, your 3rd, 4th year, you're going to start thinking about your family. You're going to start thinking about your responsibilities. You're going to start thinking about how this is going to affect your life in the next 10, 15 years. And so going and chat, like if I'm pre-med, so I went and chatted physicians. I would go for every semester, I would give myself 50 hours that I would go and shadow a different physician in a different specialty and see how is their life like. Do they have chance to go home and spend time with their family? Do they have a chance to, like one of the questions that I asked right in the chat was, do they have a chance to even learn more about their dean? Can they actually do these things with their life? And that helped solidify my dream of being a physician, right? So if you're going into IT, if you're going to engineering, if you want to be a lawyer, go reach out. And we have Muslim professionals in so many different fields. Go to the masjid. I literally would shadow physicians by meeting at the masjid. Alaikum, doctor, whatever, so-and-so. We just prayed Isha together. Can I shadow you tomorrow? And they said, sure, they're happy to help you. So go out, make connections. And first that builds your networking, right? It makes you more mature. That's number 1. Number 2, then you're able to see what exactly am I going to be doing in the next 15, 20 years of my life. So that helps you really solidify your path. It's because passion is important, but it's also your strengths, right? What are you strong at? How can you do what you're doing? Are you going to be able to do it well? So, balance experience, passion, understanding, all these kinds of things together, and then make a decision based on that. And if you're indecisive, if you don't know, then go and shadow multiple specialties. Go to shadow a physician, work with a lawyer, go see someone that works in IT. There's connections everywhere in our community. So being indecisive, you just gotta cast a wide net and then work towards getting understanding of what field you want to go to, inshallah.
Thank you so much, everyone. So did anyone want to add anything else to that? Okay, cool. So we'll move on. So we talked about, choosing your major and what you're passionate about. And now the question is, okay, so I'm going to start applying for colleges. So college applications, it's a stressful process. I mean, we've been there before. And so now for these high schoolers or people who are thinking about applying for colleges, what advice do you have for them? Do you think there's any benefit of choosing in-state schools versus out-of-state schools? And then maybe talk about safe schools versus your reach schools. And how did you decide on which schools you wanted to apply for? Rank them from best to, okay, maybe if I get in, like, I'll be okay with that. And then also in the whole idea of college applications, what type of college essays do you believe would stand out when it comes to the admissions committee? So anyone can start.
Okay, I can talk about that. So for applying to college, what I would recommend is starting early. So maybe starting as early as maybe even earlier than that, but I would recommend at least by the summer before your senior year. I think usually by then colleges release the prompts that they want your essay to be about, but think about what you want to write about and just start from there. And then also think about recommendations. So teacher recommendations, think of teachers that you really connected with and that really helped you and that you think you did well in their class, and reach out to them during the beginning of your senior year and they will probably help you. And then I took the SAT the March, so that year, March, and then it was March of my junior year. I mean, you can take it earlier than that too, but I just did that because I needed enough time to study and stuff. I mean, we can get into SATs later, but yeah, just starting early, and then also mapping out which colleges are going to be safety schools for you, reach schools, and then just like really reach schools, which I also did. So for me personally, I applied to 5 schools, I think. And my safety schools were like I think just VCU. My reach schools were more like UVA, and then William and Mary. And then I also applied to UPenn as like, what if I do, but I didn't. But yeah, so just because everyone's reach schools and everyone's safety schools are not the same. It really depends on like what you're comfortable with. And then on the topic of out of state and in state, I wanted to stay in state because it's a lot cheaper. I didn't want to be that far from my family. But if you do like immediately want to get out of the house like as far as possible, then go ahead, do that. But that's not something personally I wanted to do. So in-state was overall like a really good choice for me, and UVA is obviously like a really good school for in-state for in Virginia. So that's why I picked that.
I can piggyback teacher recommendations, since I do write several every year on teachers. So when I am writing a teacher recommendation for a student that was in my 9th grade biology class and now in 12th grade human anatomy and physiology class. So now you have to understand a lot of times teachers, you're not the only student who's getting an A in that class. There may be 8 to 10 other students that are getting A in that class. So what makes you different than those other 8 or 9 students that are getting A? So going back to what she said with that teacher connection, is that how did you connect with that teacher? What can that teacher say about you that he or she cannot say about those other students, So it's not just, oh, I got an A in that class, let me go ask that teacher if she can write me a recommendation. Maybe you said, I sat in that class, got an A, you hardly had meaningful interaction with the teacher, meaning that the teacher has no idea about your struggles and your success. The teacher has no idea how you connect what you learn in his or her class to something outside that you're doing, or perhaps even a show that you saw, and and how you took what you learned in the classroom and you applied it to somewhere else. You didn't really have that kind of a connection with the teacher. So then me as a teacher, when I am writing a recommendation, the recommendation is not as strong if I can't talk about your struggles and successes, because it's a fallacy to think that everyone is just wonderful and does great, has no trouble at all. I mean, that's not really realistic in life. I think what makes a recommendation letter more strong is that here's a student who's able to take what we learn in class, was able to apply to other situations throughout the year, or here's a student that is a high-flying student and but faced a difficulty, whether it's a difficulty doing group projects, where we know one person ends up doing other people's work, and well, in that situation, how did this student kind of maneuver to kind of massage the system to bring everybody into that group work? So those kind of things you have to kind of think about, that if you haven't really connected with a teacher like that, as far as teacher recommendation, I would say that think about those things, because when a teacher is writing that recommendation, you need to give him or her a good idea of what you are beyond your stats. Like if you're going to, a lot of times, students, when they ask me for a recommendation letter, and they would say, oh, I'll give you my resume to let you know what I have done. Well, I don't really need that, because you're putting that on that application anyway, right? You're putting where you volunteered, what your GPA is, what classes you took. They even know, your outside curricular activities. I don't need to reiterate that stuff about you because it's already on the paper. It's already on their screen. What they want to hear from a teacher is your personal struggles and successes and how analytical you are. Those kind of things is what they want to hear from the teacher. And if the teacher doesn't have that, then even though you got an A in that class from that teacher, but that recommendation is really not going to be as strong. The other thing, before I move on, the other thing also, I would strongly recommend you do college visits to see how you fit in a college, because that is something I will tell you that is especially, I know a lot of the other ethnicities, they do that for some reason, like the Indo-Pak students, they don't do college visits. And I find year after year, while students are in college, when they come and visit, they are not happy with even though they're there, they're going to do what they're going to do, but they're not happy with the college environment in a sense that there are colleges, like for example, if you're like the social butterfly and you end up in a college where there are cliques, just like in high school, you're going to be miserable, right? And you're not going to know that unless you go to that college, visit that, and get that feel for it. You know, so I think it's very important that you do college visits to figure out where you fit in, what kind of, clubs and activities they have. That gives you a lot of idea about what is the institute doing in order to get everyone to get involved or get to know one another. Some colleges are doing way more than others. Just like in high school, there are some high schools that are doing a lot of stuff about anti-bullying stuff. And there are some high schools, even within the same county, they're not doing anything. They're maybe doing 1 or 2 activities. So, and then it's similar to that. I think it's important to visit the colleges to figure out, does your personality fit in that college or not? So for you to be there for 4 years and be happy.
To add on to what Sister Shahina was saying, I think as she mentioned, like visiting the colleges is definitely important, but also knowing yourself, that's going to help you kind of determine which college best fits what your goals are essentially for college. So if you go in and you know that you need to have a strong Muslim community around you, you want to be looking for that MSA. Do they have a strong MSA? If you are looking for pre-meds, you want to look for that like pre-med club or whatever societies they have that are kind of towards your field. So kind of looking for different activities that you know would fit with what your goals are, but also knowing that the community around you, the types of people you're going to be interacting with, who your new friend group is going to be, knowing that those are people that align with your goals and your morals as a human being. So if you can, like when you go on those visits, you can sometimes sit in on some lectures, visit some activities that are going on campus, kind of get a feel for what a day-to-day experience would be like at that university. And that's definitely going to help you a lot in terms of knowing whether you'd fit in, like visit the residence halls if you're going to be dorming, visit the dining halls, like visit everything on campus, visit the gym, just see like what does this college offer for me and how am I going to fit in.
Actually, that's a great point. One of the things that I did when I was doing college visits is that I would try to visit on Fridays because that's when Jummah is usually held. And I would get to see the entire Muslim community come out for Friday prayers, right? So that gives you a kind of a good background to see, what kind of, are these people similar to me? Am I going to be able to, be around this community? How big is this community? How active is this community? And I mean, you guys are all in high school right now or thinking of applying in the next couple of years. It may not be that important to you right now because every day you usually end up going home to your families. You guys have a support system. But if you do end up moving for college, even if your family is within driving distance, it makes a huge difference about the community that's available to you. I mean, my closest friends, so two of my closest friends are literally in this call right now, and I met them through college. I met them through my MSA, and alhamdulillah, they've been a huge blessing for me. But because I went and I, kind of checked out the community, if there's people available there to help me grow both Islamically and, in terms of my professional life, that was a very holistic decision for me. So to go, definitely go visit the college. I definitely agree. You should go visit dorms. You should see what the living situation is like if you're going to be living there, because all those things are going to have a direct effect on you because you're going to be spending 90% of your time there. And I commuted my 4 years of college. So and I would leave probably 7, 8 a.m. and I would come home at 9, 10 p.m. So I'm still spending a majority of my day there, even if I'm not living there. So know the community, see if you can fit in that community. And and if your friends are applying, try to apply with other friends if you guys have similar goals, and then make a decision from there, inshallah.
Can I also add, I think it's very important that when you're applying to college, they don't just care about your grades, they care a lot that you're a well-rounded person. So having extracurriculars, being engaged in some kind of sport, a person that's not just an academically, competent person, but also competent in many other ways. And when it comes to, the essays, I think it's very important to write a great essay, put a lot of work into it, make it personal, try to hit the points that they ask you to write about in the essay. And then when you're applying to colleges, I have a biased opinion that you should probably go to in-state schools. When it comes to undergraduate degrees, the name of the school does not matter as much than when you're in graduate school. When you apply to work to a job after college, a lot of them just care that you understood the material. And if you go to a good school, that's all they care about. They don't care, oh, this person went to this really amazing school and this other person didn't. If it comes down to that, maybe, but it rarely comes down to that. Really, they're looking for a well-rounded person. So also, don't feel any shame of going to a community college for 2 years and then transferring to a bigger school. It can save you a lot of money. You can have better grades. If that's something that works for you, don't dismiss it because you think you'll feel less. It doesn't make. And actually, when you go to college, like the regular 4-year college, the difference between transfers and most people don't even know that you're a transfer. They'll just know that you're there with them studying. No one cares. And at the end of the day, you'll be graduated from this, flagship university or whatever. So pick your college carefully. And I think all the advice that my peers gave is great.
I'm gonna piggyback on what you just said. At Hayfield, I sponsored the medical club. So the students brought, I think, Mount Vernon Hospital. He is the lead person, the director. Can't remember whatever the highest position is. For the stroke unit, they brought him to the club to speak to our students. And I was really blown away by his story because he was a Moroccan man. He did very well in Morocco, and to get into the medical school, they have an entrance exam like we do here. And he did very well on it, but somehow the system is different. He was from lower middle class and they would not allow him, even though he had the best of scores compared to others, they would not allow him to enter medical school. So he shared his story with us. So what he did, he came here to Northern Virginia Community College. That's where he applied. He came to the United States. He applied to the Northern Virginia Community College. And after doing the 2 years of associate degree, he became an LPN, which is like the licensed practical nurse. He's not even like a licensed practical nurse. They basically work under a registered nurse. So then he graduated from Northern Virginia Community College and for 2 years became an LPN. Then he got a job with the Inova Health care system, which we have a lot in Virginia here, many hospitals. And once he got into that school, it's amazing, into the Inova health system, he had the entire way of his undergraduate degree, his medical school, of course, then his, then from medical school, he went to residency and all that. All of that was paid for Inova through his work. And he used to work part-time and go to school part-time. That's what he did. It took time, but now he is this big shot at Mount Vernon Hospital, within the stroke unit. And so I thought that was just an amazing story to share with our students, that he spoke of it in light of money, that I didn't have any money. I didn't want to take a loan, but there are ways you can get around to not taking loan, not having money, but still being successful. Yeah, it takes a little bit longer time, but it's still, you still make it. So yeah, I kind of want to piggyback on that don't look down on the community college part of it, if that fits your situation at that time better for you.
Actually, if anything, the transfer students that I know that came to UMD, they were actually way more equipped in dealing with college classes than high school counterparts. I know alhamdulillah, like most of us do well in high school, but college is a different ballgame, especially if you're going into a STEM field or a field that is known to be difficult. It's very, very difficult. You can easily go from being a 4.0 student to like a 3.0 or 2.0 student. And it's very shocking how difficult it can get. And it can be very depressing too. So when you do go to community college, or if you take community college classes in high school or AP classes, especially community college classes, you are very, very well equipped to deal with difficult coursework, and you were in a college setting beforehand. So you're very prepared to do well, and it sets you up for success in a beautiful way. And you don't have any debt. I mean, the classes are much easier to do. My little brothers are in high school right now. I'm telling them to go to community college for the first 2 years and I did all 4 years at a public university. So you save money, you save time, even if you get extra credits when you're in high school, and you're way more prepared. So there is definitely no negative aspect to going to community college. It can only help you.
Can I also add something? So going back to about like, it's for applying to colleges, it's not just the grades or the academics. That's like, it's extracurriculars are really important too, but that's not to say that you need to be in every single club. You need to be in FBLA, DECA, CLE club, all of this. You don't need to be in like 100 different clubs. You just need to pick like clubs that really sound interesting to you, that appeal to you, and maybe even try to get leadership positions in them. So maybe becoming the president, vice president, whatever. Maybe even part the SGA. That would be a really good thing to put on your application. So just being really investing a lot into the clubs you're in, even if there are few, is a really good way to stand out on an application, instead of listing like all of these clubs you were in maybe for a little bit and you didn't put much effort into. So yeah, just try to find the clubs that you're really interested in and that appeal to you, and try to get like positions in them. That way you'll have like leadership experience.
So are we ready to move on to the next question, or does anyone want to add anything else?
I just have one thing on essays, because I know we didn't touch on it too much. I think someone said it as well, the more personal you are and the more real you are with your answer, the more colleges like that. Because if you think about it, they're reading like literally thousands and thousands of these applications. And so the people reading them are obviously gonna be reading the same sentences like, oh, I want to do this because it like changes the world or helps the world, or I want to help others and things like that. But if you give like real life experiences, give real reasons as to why you want to pursue a certain field, what really interests you in a certain field, and if you do so and tie it into what experiences you've had thus far and what you've done in high school and kind of whatever you've done even in middle school and things like that, those are the essays that really stand out. And I would recommend starting as early as you can. Like I started late, and it was a very, very stressful experience, and my essays were okay at best. So from my experience, I would say start early. A lot of the applications, if I'm not mistaken, are due like somewhere in the fall semester. So if you can start writing drafts in the summer, and take as much help as you need. You know, if you have older friends, if you have friends who've gone through college, have them read it, have them proofread it, you know, people who are in your field, like a professor or a teacher that you really like, have them read it, you know. Take as much help as you need, and don't feel like ashamed that's like, oh, you know, it's not like the finished product, anything like that. Because at the end of the day, you want to put your best effort out there. And having people help you is the best way to get that as well. That's all I had on essays.
Thank you. That was helpful still. So I hate to be the one to limit how much we speak on a topic, but we do have like 20 minutes until the break. And so if we could like kind of speak at least like 3 minutes per question. I know there's so much to say for each question, but if we could limit it just a little bit. So now we were talking about college applications. Now, once you start hearing from these colleges, you will either hear good news or bad news, obviously. So a lot of times you might not get into your top schools. So this question is, how can you make the most of whatever track or field you choose with whichever university you go to? And I know Ibrahim said, like, obviously when you're in your undergrad, it might not be, that name of the school might not be as important as when you do your master's, but still, I know some, you know, from personal experience as well as friends, if we didn't get into a specific school, we were kind of upset about it. So how can you make the most of whichever school you do end up going to?
I mean, I can start. One thing is, I would say, and this is from me, like seeing it in person, is that I'm a firm believer in that no matter in what situation you are, if you put in good amount of hard work and you put in a lot of hours, things will go far for you. And I think I genuinely, like, that's from Allah. Like, Allah blesses hard work, and if you say Bismillah, say your intentions, things grow. And I've seen situations where people have no funding, no research. I'm talking about in terms of a research setting. People had no funding, no people to help them out, and they just had themselves. And with hard work, with dedication, and they took projects and things, and they went to like extremely high levels. And so every school is equipped to a certain extent. Obviously, bigger schools like a public schools have a little bit more resources in terms of money, but that's not to say smaller schools don't. Smaller schools have those opportunities, and there's always going to be options for you to find internships, to find jobs, and to find like summer experiential kind of programs, no matter where you are. And those are the things that can really get your foot in the door, like moving forward.
I think that's a good advice. I also wanted to kind of piggyback on that, to realize that if you did not get into your dream school, that, you know, there is something, and you tried your best and it didn't happen. We do at the end of the day have to believe in Qadar of Allah, that this is what is best for you, you know, because Allah wants, of course, you know, best for you. He's not out to get you or anything. So the fact that you didn't get in, even though you put your best effort into it and all that, I think accepting what Allah does is best is also part of your character building, and just kind of do the best, like he said, in whatever situation you're in, and other, you know, and doors will open up, you know, because at the end of the day, we like, as much as we like to believe that we are in control of how we lead our life, that is true to a certain extent, right? So keep that in mind.
Did anyone else want to add? I know I put a limit to the talking, but like, if you still want to add, you can add. Okay, cool. We'll move on then. So okay, now let's say we're in college now. Do you have any tips or advice for study habits, good learning skills? both like while you're still in high school preparing for college, and then obviously when you're in college, because I know it gets super busy, there's procrastination. So what advice and stuff do you have for these high schoolers as well as middle schoolers who are on this panel?
The most important thing you can do as a college student is learn how to study. High school is a time where there can be very difficult classes, but they are not, maybe because you're in class every single day, first of all, because the classes in college are staggered. Sometimes you may have them every day, sometimes you may have them every other day, sometimes you may have them once a week. So I would forget, like my first semester I had class once a week. That the week after I would be like, what did I even study last week? I don't even remember what I was happening last week in my life, right? So learning how to study, you have to learn very consistent study habits, study self-motivation, set schedules for yourself. One of the things my mom told me was keep a journal, like an agenda, like you guys are required to have in high school and middle school. That is your lifesaver in college, because you have a Google Calendar, have something that tells you exactly what's due, when it's due, and do not procrastinate. Procrastination is going to be you're going to hate yourself every single day at 11:50 p.m. You have a paper due in 10 minutes. You're going to be like, why did I delay this? There's no reason for me to delay it. And college is difficult, but it's very manageable. It's very manageable. If you are, strict on your time limits, you don't use your phone too much, you can hang out with friends, you can play sports, you can do whatever you like. Just manage your time wisely, learn how to study correctly. And that means don't study to get the A, or don't study to just, hey, I just want to get the A in the class. Study to understand the material. Once you understand the material, then you're going to get the A anyway. And especially if you're going to graduate school, I mean, I studied to get the A my first year, and I don't even remember the classes that I took my first year, right? And when I was junior and senior, when those classes really started coming back and I had to recall all that material, I was like a semester behind because I had completely forgotten what I even studied before. So study to understand the material, practice questions all day. Do as many practice questions as you can. And the thing about college is you're going to have previous year's exams to tell you how your professors might ask questions, how they'll design their exams. So you have like a very, you have a lot of resources. So just utilize your time correctly, smart study skills, and you're going to be fine, inshallah. Just take it seriously. That's the main advice.
Yeah,
I think that's a good advice for middle schoolers and while you're in high school. It's the same thing. I think there's a big shock between middle school and high school just because the rigor is so different from middle to high, and it's similar. You can expect the same thing, that the rigor is going to be very different from high school to college. But I think if you learn how to manage your time and dedicate portions of each day towards your academics, and if you develop that skill from middle school to high school and you just continue in college, I think it just makes it easier, so yeah. I'll give you they told you that I have two daughters. My younger one, she is a character. She she had pneumonia in 8th grade. She had pneumonia in 8th grade. She missed a month and a half school. So that's middle school. 8th grade is middle school. She goes back to school. She makes up a month and a half worth of assignments in 1 week. So it just goes to show you how the rigor is. And then she moves to high school. High school is not like that. If you guys know, many of you are in high school. If you miss 1 week trying to make up all the assignments, it's doable, but it's just very stressful and all that. But I think some of you, and this is certainly true of my younger one, she's totally a procrastinator. As a matter of fact, she thrives off of it, which is really not a good thing. And that's why I'm sharing this with you. She's the type of person who's like, oh, I studied half an hour before the test and I got an A-. Wow, that is an accomplishment. If I just imagine if I studied longer, I would have gotten an A, right? So that kind of a mentality, I don't think it's a good mentality going into college, because college rigor is way more than high school. So I think it's a good habit from high school to not to have that kind of an attitude that, yeah, I procrastinated in high school. So did 99% of other students, and they came out fine. But that is not the point of whether you came out fine or not. It's the habits that you're building that are those habits sustainable for your future goals. I think you need to look at it in a different perspective, not so much what grade I got based on what I am doing, but based on, will this habit be sustainable in college, post-college, and so on.
And I think something to recognize in regard to like not leaving the studying to the last minute and not procrastinating is a lot of it has to do with being present in your lectures. So when you're at that lecture, you should not be writing another paper. You should not be watching a Netflix episode. Like, be present with what the professor is saying, ask questions, like make sure you're engaging in the discussion, the conversation, because then when you go back and you look at your notes and you're studying for that exam, you're going to remember everything that you had heard during that lecture. It's going to all build off of each other, and you're not all of a sudden trying to cram everything the night before, the week before the exam. So when you're taking the time to really engage in discussions, taking time to review your notes frequently throughout the semester, come exam time, you don't really have to spend as much time to studying, because a lot of it you've already done the legwork throughout the semester. So kind of use the semester wisely and don't wait for exam week to kind of freak out and start studying for everything.
And one small thing I would recommend, do not overload your first semester. That's a mistake that a lot of freshmen make. They take a good amount of classes their first semester and they can't adjust properly. And I'm one of those, I'm speaking for myself. I took way too many credits and I ended up doing very, very bad. Alhamdulillah, we recovered, but it was rough. And so that's just one thing that I've seen a lot of freshmen make a mistake on. And I'm just want to like let you guys know, just take your time, adjust to college. It is a new experience. You have to develop new studying habits, locations to study, people to study with. And so just take your time, don't overwhelm yourself at once.
Just a quick thing. I didn't know this until we actually had to go through it. A lot of students feel like they're not going to have any guidance whatsoever, and they're going to be choosing their own classes, and there's not going to be much help. At least at the University of Maryland, they set up a whole 4-year plan with you. So you have an advisor. When you go for orientation, you sit with either student advisors or college advisors, and they sit with you and they plan every single class you're going to take in the next 4 years. So I used to get very I had a lot of anxiety. What's going to happen? I don't even know what classes I'm taking, but they really do help you out. So you have a lot of support. You don't have to go into a blind, but the thing is you have to utilize that support. A lot of us might be shy. We may not want to get help, but the resources are there for you. So utilize them, especially if you're going to a big public university. Then there's just so much there for you that's free. Utilize the free resources. And I mean, pre-med advisors, pre-law advisors, they're all there. Just talk to them. And there's a lot that can help you out. So you utilize those resources for sure. The same way you have college or high school advisors, you have college ones as well.
Cool. Thank you for all your answers for that question. So we're going to do one more question, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back, inshallah. So we've been talking a lot about, college prep and applications and study habits, but also this panel, we want to talk a little bit more also about career prep. So the next question I have is obviously resumes and resume building, and what advice you have on building a good, efficient resume for both internships, because these kids are in high school, middle school, or research opportunities. Yeah, whoever wants to go first.
I don't know, I guess I could, for high school students, helping out teachers after school, those kind of things you can put on your resume, even babysitting, helping, tutoring students after school. And if you go to any teacher, whatever subject you're strong in, and you can go to the teacher and say, hey, do you need some help with tutoring? And, teachers are always looking to pair strong students with a weaker student. So If you can't find anything to build your resume, certainly that is something that teachers are very, very, very much open to it and very appreciative of it. So that's an idea I'll throw out there.
When it comes to volunteer opportunities and internships, uh, one of the main things that people do is they do a lot of things. They do like 20 different things and they'll do them each for like a week or a month at a time. What people like is consistency. Whatever you do it over time, over a long period of time. One, the experience is going to be very much more fulfilling for you. You're going to get a lot out of it. And as high school students and as Muslims, right, it's really important that we give back to our community, where we stay active. If the masjid offers like certain like relief efforts, I know there's organizations like Ikna Relief and Helping Hand that go to inner cities. They help distribute food, these kinds of things. As young people, those experiences are very important for you. And just in general, I think, and I think it's really important that we also piggyback on what the sister said before, is that help your teachers out. You know, teachers are struggling and stuff like that. If you can be a sense of comfort or ease for them, do that. I'm sure they have a lot of more difficult students that are there, and that's da'wah, that's showing people that Muslims are good. That's a very positive aspect. But at the same time, when you do get a letter of recommendation from that teacher, it's going to be a great letter of recommendation, right? You're getting a benefit out of it. So whatever you do it consistently, do it with passion, and don't just do a lot of different things to show you're like multifaceted, right? Do things that are going to show you as a good person that's involved in their community and is willing to help other people.
To add on to what Harris said, something that my dad used to always tell me and my sisters was, don't leave an internship or a job or any like volunteer experience until you have accomplished something. If you have not accomplished something, you should not be leaving because you haven't finished your work. So like Harris was saying, they don't care how many different volunteer organizations you worked at or supported. It's more about what have you done when you were there. So if once you accomplish something, once you've grown as an individual, then you can take those resources, like take what you've learned and apply it in other places, or see how you can give back to that organization. So kind of, make sure you're not just there to be there, but you have a purpose as to why you're there.
Okay, any more additional comments? Okay, cool. So Nazifa, do you think we can go ahead and take a break here?
Yeah, we can take a break for 10 minutes if you guys have to pray Asr or just like stretch a little bit, and then we can come back.
Yeah, and we have a lot of questions from the students, so hopefully when we come back, I'll go through those, inshallah.
Assalamualaikum. I think everyone should be back now. If you could turn back your videos on so we know everyone's back. Okay, so before we start, there's a noise coming from someone.
You're the only one unmuted, Nazifa.
Okay, I think they muted it. Okay. So before we go on, we have this to get through most of the questions that students gave in. We're going to make panelists into groups so that a few people can answer like specific questions targeted to them only. So I have another admin of the COOOL Summer Program, Sadia, here. She'll explain it better, I think. Sadia, if you can explain the grouping. You're muted, by the way.
I don't like Zoom. Okay. Sorry about that. So this might be a little confusing, so just stop me if I'm confusing anybody, but what we decided to do was to group some of the panelists to answer questions related to fields or like topics that we think best relate to them based on the answers that we got in our last segment. So I'm just going to explain the 3 categories that we have. So we basically grouped up 3 categories and each one has like 2 panelists in it. So the first category that we have is professional schools / college admissions. And I think for that, the panelists that we will include in that would be would be Sister Namira and Brother Harris. Would that work? Because I know Brother Harris is, well, I know that in his bio he talked about medical school and stuff and a master's degree, so I think that would work. Okay, just making sure. Hope I'm not confusing anyone yet. So the questions about like college applications and the professional school, like medical school, pre-med majors and stuff, those questions are directed at Sister Namira and Brother Harris. And for non-STEM related majors, because there were a couple of questions about that, will be directed at Sister Doha and Sister Shahina. And I'm gonna, by the way, I'm gonna make a list of this in the chat as well, so no one's confused. And for STEM related majors will be Brother Yahya and Brother Abraham. Did I lose anyone?
Okay, so
Brother Abraham had to leave a little bit early.
Oh, okay, my bad. Okay, so I guess
yeah,
we'll
that's
just...
okay. Yeah, that's okay. We might add someone else last minute into the panel, but I'm waiting for a response.
Okay, so then do you think we could add them into any of these categories? Doesn't matter which one.
Yeah, is Adnan here?
Wait, that's perfect actually.
Yeah, because I think he could fit.
Brother Adnan, would you mind being a part of the STEM category then in that regard? That'd work perfectly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think we're good to go. So we can go ahead and ask our first question. I'm going to quickly type all this into the chat as well, so we don't get, actually, you know, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, I'll
Okay,
put it
so
in the chat.
am I asking the questions that I see on the Google Doc?
So Nazifa, can you PM the questions that we have on our doc?
No,
Make
she
it
has
more
the document. Yeah, you can
Oh,
just
okay.
ask on there.
Yeah, okay. If you have the document, yeah, just ask those.
Okay, cool. So we'll start with, so I know that earlier Namira was talking about SATs, and we did get a lot of questions about preparing for SATs and taking the SATs. And I know with COVID-19, I think there's a lot of changes that are happening. I mean, I'm not really aware of it right now, but like for someone who's also thinking of taking her GRE, like, yeah, there's a lot going on basically. So the question we have, or we'll start with, is how should we prepare for the SAT and maintain good grades during the school year? So I guess it's more like while maintaining good grades, because obviously you have to focus on schoolwork, and then there's also SATs. So yeah, I think Namira or Sister Shahina or Daha, if you guys want to start answering these.
So I can answer that. So for acing your SATs and doing well, the #1 resource I would recommend is Khan Academy, because it's free, and the way that Khan Academy helps you is it sets up a timeline. So you put in which date you want to take the SAT, because it's usually like at the beginning of each month. But they don't do it for every single month of the year, but so yeah, you put in which day you're planning to take it, and they set up like a timeline for you, and you do like at least like an hour of practice every day. Maybe not even every day, but try to get it in every day, because that's what really helped me do well on my SAT, is because practice is key. Like practice is crucial for the SAT. This isn't like a test. You can get away with tests in high school where you just study the night before and you do well, but the SAT is not something you can do that for. You need to practice a lot. So I saw a question about the reading section, like how can you do well in the reading section? It's just to read a lot of passages and answer questions, and there's tons and tons of practice material online for the reading section of the SAT. So just by being fluent in reading long passages, because that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to read long passages in a short amount of time and analyze it so you can answer questions about them. So you need to really dissect that passage while you're reading it, or else you're not going to be able to answer the questions on time. So just do a lot of practice. And for math, I'm personally stronger in math, but like I think a lot of people, most people do better on math than the reading, because the reading is pretty difficult. But the math is just practice. There's going to be a lot of like algebra, mostly algebra. So you need to brush up if you're, because you probably took algebra 2 maybe like a few years ago. So you need to brush up on your algebra skills a lot before you take the SAT. So Khan Academy is your #1 resource. And as for keeping good grades, maintaining good grades while you're studying for that, I wouldn't, if you're studying a while ahead, if you're preparing a while ahead and you're doing a little bit every day, it's not going to take as much of a toll on your other classes and your homework for other classes, I think personally. But yeah, just make sure you have a set timeline that you know you want to take the SAT on this day and you need to do this much practice beforehand. That's the way you really can succeed with the SAT and for ACT too, but I think it's pretty much the same for both of them.
Yeah, I would recommend just keeping your weekdays for your schoolwork and using the weekends for your SAT or ACT prep. That's, I do want to say, I know we talk a lot about SAT because SAT is what the Ivy Leagues require, but many of the schools, they also accept ACT, which many students do a lot better than the SAT. So just, I know students like my, one of my daughter's friend, she could not get above a 1240 on the SAT, but on the ACT, she aced it, and she got, with her ACT score, she got into Cornell. You know, so don't prepare for both SAT and ACT. I think the Khan Academy is the best. The other resources for the SAT as well as ACT is College Board itself. And the way they have it, College Board, you can take like a diagnostic test through College Board that is free. And from that diagnostic test, they align directly with Khan Academy. So let's say that you have a lower score on reasoning, you know, they're directly aligned to Khan Academy, how you can get tutorials with that. So I would definitely use College Board as one of the resources as well. After all, they're the ones who are giving these tests, but not to just prepare for the SAT, but also to look at the ACT, because not everybody's going to go to Ivy Leagues. You know, most people are going to go to you know, ordinary schools, which they and really the it's not like one test is harder than the other, although depending on your strength, you may find one test is more difficult than the other, but that's just how it is. It's just, and also to keep in mind that I think grades are way more important, especially nowadays with the non-Ivy League schools, you know, shying away more and more from these high stakes tests like SAT or ACT. They give a lot of emphasis on the grades. One thing I want to say about the grades is a common misunderstanding that I hear from students is they care what your end of the year grade is. So for example, let's say that in biology, first semester, you have a B, but at the end of the year in biology in that same class, you have an A, right? So students think, as long as I have an A at the end of the year in that course, I am good as far as my GPA is concerned. Yes, that is true. That A at the end of the year is what is used to calculate your grade. But guess what? In senior year, when the counselors are sending in your grades, they're not only sending in your 3 years of end of the year grade, they're sending in 7 semesters of your grade. So 2 semesters first year, 9th grade, you will have 2 semester, 10th grade 2 semester, 11th grade 2 semester, and senior year 1 semester. That's 7 semester. So when colleges are looking at your grade, they're not looking at just your end of the year grade that made up your GPA, but they're looking at those semester grades, whether you have a upward trend in those semester grades or not. Because someone easily could have, I mean, this is very likely because I see this all the time, every year. Someone with a 4 point, out of a 4-point scale, someone who has a 4 point, let's say 4.2 out of a 4-point scale. Someone who has a 4.2, but you go and look at their semester, the graph looks up and down, up and down. The 7th semester, it looks up and down. Versus someone with a 4.2, but the 7th semester, when a college is looking at it, it's either constant, that they kept it high, or it's on an upward trend. And that's what I think is also very important, is to, definitely prepare for the SAT and ACT, but also don't do it at the expense of grades. So that's why I think dedicating yourself on the weekdays for our schoolwork, and maybe every Saturday a few hours, every Sunday a few hours, and just kind of managing your time that way is good.
Also, I wanted to add so for when you're applying to colleges, I don't know if your counselors told you this, but there's a resource on Naviance. It's like you can see the scattergrams for the colleges you're looking at and see based on your high school what previous applicants, what GPA and what SAT score they had and who got accepted in. And there's like a plot of like GPA and then like SAT score, and like it will show you who got in and who didn't get in. And so that's like a pretty good gauge of like what it takes to get into that college.
I think Naviance is a Fairfax County thing, so I don't think all counties have that. Yeah, but I'm sure they have something similar.
No, yeah, but like I think multiple counties use it because I've seen it on like other places. But like if you're in Fairfax County, that's a really good, useful tool.
One quick thing I want to add about the SAT or just standardized exams in general. Knowing how to take the exam is just as important as knowing the content that's on the exam. So don't just focus on studying the content, focus on the structure of the exam. There's usually an introduction in the beginning of some books that tell you like this exam is consisted of this amount of like reasoning or whatever types of questions. So know the structure of the exam, but also know how to eliminate answers, because if you can quickly eliminate an answer, it's going to help you a lot more in terms of like being able to identify the correct answer quickly. So I think those are two things to consider also when talking about the SAT.
Okay, great, thank you. So the next question we have is, what are some of the best majors for the pre-med track? What are some of the best majors for the pre-law track? So Haris, if you want to answer about the pre-med track.
I'm sorry, my mom's vacuuming in the background, but I'll try to be a little bit loud. Okay, so I wish that I had gotten this advice when I had started college. It's that there is no good major for pre-med. You can major in whatever you want and love your undergrad career and still be a doctor, right? You can do business, you can do art, you can do whatever you want, and you can be a doctor. And this is very important because biology, bioengineering, these STEM courses, they're difficult majors. And for medical school, you want a high GPA and you want a high MCAT. And you only need 10 classes to apply for medical school. There's only 10 classes. I'm sorry. So there's only 10 classes in total. There's Calc 1, Calc 2, Physics 1, Physics 2, Chem 1, Chem 2, Orgo 1, and Orgo 2, right? So the thing is, that's all you need. And I think there's 1 or 2 more classes depending on different medical schools. But once those are out of the way, that's it. And you can take these in staggering. You can take them 1 freshman year, 1 sophomore, or 1 freshman year, part 2, then continue on until senior year. I have friends that majored in economics. I have very close friends that went to UMD, majored in business, and now they're all in medical school. And it makes it easier for you because you're not very stressed with extreme amounts of like science material, right? That's number 1. So major in whatever you like. Just be aware that you may be a little behind your counterparts when it comes to MCAT preparation, but you can always go over that hurdle very easily if you just spend a little bit, a month or 2 months extra studying. That's number 1. Number 2, what medical schools look for is an applicant that's different from everybody else, right? Everyone is majoring in biology. I'm one of, there's like 200,000 people applying this year, right? To just MD schools, to DO schools, maybe 300,000 plus, right? Oh, also, this is a very important point. There's not just medical schools in the United States. There are osteopathic schools and allopathic schools. Both make doctors, but both have very different degrees of acceptance, right? This is not common knowledge amongst a lot of people that go into pre-med, right? There's 2 complete separate applications. There's differences in what they want. The philosophy behind the medicine is different. But at the end of the day, you can practice medicine at the exact same level in the United States. So major in something you like. Make sure you get a really high GPA. That's the one thing that, in order for medical school, you're comparing yourself with the top of the top, the cream of the crop, right? And this is what's making it very difficult to get in medical school. And this is why, like myself, 60% of applicants that get into medical school have to do a master's or a postbac, right? 60%. That's a lot of people. So you have to put a lot of money into it, and put a lot of time into it. It's a lot of hard work. And this is why when we talked about, Ibrahim brought up a really good point, that when it comes to going to graduate school, don't go to a very expensive undergrad, and don't think that you have to go to a top 10 undergrad or anything like that. I know one of my mentors who was a Muslim physician that went to Johns Hopkins for medical school and then went to Duke for his residency, right? Top 3 programs in the world. He went to a small liberal arts school in like Iowa or something, right? This isn't the normal case. You can go undergrad anywhere. As long as your grades are good and your MCAT is good and you have good experiences, you can be a great physician and you will get accepted somewhere, inshallah. So major in something you really are passionate about, you love, you will do well in. That's the most important thing. But just make sure you make your 4-year plan. You're able to come into what class you need to take. My first semester, I need to take Bio 1 and Chem 1. Semester 2, I need to take Chem 2, Bio 2, and move on like that over time. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I can give my contact information at the end if anybody has any specific questions.
Okay, great. So the next question I have is, how can students be considered competitive if pursuing a STEM degree? And what level of difficulty are some of the IT, computer science, or engineering majors? So Jaber, Adnan, or Yahya, if you guys want to answer this.
Assalamu alaikum, guys. My name is Adnan. I know many of you know me. I taught you, or you saw me in the panel last week. Brother Ibrahim Darwish was an electrical engineering major. I'm a computer engineering major, and she'll be graduating in December. So there's not too much of a difference between us. But in terms of, and Yahya can talk about this more as well, but in terms of taking competitive classes or like advanced classes to take in high school, right before getting into college, depending on what major you want to make, you want to go into. So for me, as a computer engineer, you want to take coding heavy classes, or like at least introductory courses to coding in high school. So for me, I took AP Computer Science. I know now, back when I was in high school, I mean, it's not that long ago, I'm still pretty young, but when I was in high school, they had AP Computer Science, and that's it. I think now they have AP Computer Science and AP Computer Science principles, I believe. But the point is, you want to take these classes that will get you into the major you want. So AP Computer Science is a good one. And then if you're looking for engineering specifically, you want to really take your AP classes seriously and get them out of the way in high school. Because I guarantee you, once you get into college, and this is a mistake I made, it'll be 20 times harder. When I was in high school, I was like, oh, I don't need to really pass these AP classes. I'll take it when I'm in college anyways. You still want to get a good grade in high school, but like the AP test, which many of you know that you have to take, I didn't take it seriously. So that's my piece of advice. Depending on what major you want to go to, especially if it's STEM, you really want to make sure that you're on point with your AP classes and you really do study for them hard. Don't say that, oh, I'll take it in college, because it will be 20 times harder in college. Make it easy for yourself, study now, get it over with.
Yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback off that. People really don't understand how important AP classes are, or community college classes, whichever one you decide to do. My older brother got into UMD in 2013, and he came in with 60 credits from APs only. So out of 120 credits, he was already done with 2 years of college. And that saves so much money and it saves so much time. And depending on the major you're applying to get into, they'll accept all the credits. So if you really apply, and I mean, it's 60 credits sounds like a lot, but it was really only like 11 or 12 classes, because AP Biology and Calc 1 and Calc 2, they double up as 8 if you do well on the exams. So depending on whether you get a 4 or 5. So it saves you so much time. And those classes are notoriously known for being weed out classes or very difficult in the major. I mean, I struggled with Bio 1, Bio 2 more than I struggled with like my end of the year, like senior level bio courses, because they can be very difficult. So yeah, definitely study for those AP courses. And if you don't want to take AP courses, take the community college courses. You're guaranteed a grade then. Just be aware, community college courses, they fit into your overall GPA. So UMD or VCU may not show them, but when you apply to medical school, they will count as your actual GPA. And so if you don't do well, it will literally show as that grade and it will affect your GPA. So if you take them seriously and try to do well and focus.
Yeah, I mean, agreed with everything that you guys said. Honestly, go out and get some experience too. I would say for engineering at least, and a lot of other STEM majors too, a lot of it is team based activities, team based projects, team based research. A lot of things are just team based, and you don't really realize this until you get into college. But a lot of people don't really know how to work well in teams. And so if you have those skills and you kind of have like either leadership skills or communication skills, it's like a huge thing. That can just spur you forward in college itself. And that's actually what employers and higher level like graduate schools, that's what they look for too. Just people who know how to work well in teams and work well and communicate, which is just something that a lot of STEM people struggle with, myself included. And so that's how, like, I would say try to get ahead is just like anytime that you can work with others, try to get some kind of internship that's team-based and things like that. But otherwise, I would 100% agree with Adnan. Take your AP seriously, because those classes are specifically geared to just make the size of the class smaller and just kick as many people and deter as many people out. Professors don't really care about students in those classes. And so just take the AP classes seriously. And I think we covered most of the bases, right, Edmund?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the next question we have, if Doha and Sister Shahina, if you guys want to answer this one, is what is the best way to experiment which career path you would like to pursue?
Sorry, do you mind if I take this one, everyone? I actually, this one hits kind of close to home for me, because when I was in high school, I really wanted to do something neuroscience related. Obviously, that didn't end up happening because I went into different. I think Haris or Yahya mentioned it. Like Yahya mentioned it, that you want to get as much experience as possible to get your interest, to gauge your interest in what major you wanted to go to. And if you don't know your major, even in college, don't stress about it. There's a million other people who still don't know their major either. It's just a learning experience as you go. But I would say to start early, maybe get experience in high school in whatever you think you're interested in. And if you're not, you can get different experience in a different field and move like that.
Daha or Sister Shahina, did you want to add more to that?
Oh, What was the question? Let me look at it again.
It is, what is the best way to experiment which career path you would like to pursue?
Okay, so I think the biggest struggle that students have is they don't know how a certain subject translates into a career. So I may like history, but what does that mean? What careers are out there for a person who likes history? So I think I would really recommend that the best way to go about what you want to study is really to look at careers that are out there, you know. And I'm sure if you Google it, you know, in even, you know, I would say one of the one of the resources that you could use is go to a university site and look at their academic programs that they have, and you'll get ideas of the main out there. Okay, so for example, if you go into George Mason University, for example, and you type in their academics and all the undergraduate majors that they have, it shows up. And you can just go through them and then see that, and it's not, you know, for example, under biology, they would have things like pre-med track, obviously, but they would have things like neuroscience or even like nanoscience with nanotechnology. They would have things like public health. They have majors such as what is that? Bioinformatics, you know, and you could click on them and then you can do a little stuff, you know, they tell you what's it about, you know, like for example, bioinformatics is a combination of statistics and biology, you know. Of course, there's a biostats major as well. So there's fine tuning. So then they can also tell you, like, for example, nanoscience, somebody who likes math, but they're not gung-ho about math. Oh, yeah, math, me. No, they're not like that, but they're okay with math, but they predominantly, they like biology. So nanotechnology is maybe a thing. So I would say, focus more on the careers and the majors that are out there for you to know that. I would say just go to different universities on their websites and type in academics and go through them and you know, click on them and see. If you don't know, something looks really you know, different, you don't know what's it about, click on it and it gives you a little blurb about what that is about, you know, and you know, you can go on from there. It'll just give you some ideas. I think that's where students really struggle. Is like, okay, perhaps I like this subject, but I don't know what's associated with this, right? So maybe that's something to go off of.
Okay, so I think I'll move on to the next question. Unless, Saha, did you want to add anything?
I think they covered it pretty well. Alhamdulillah.
I think so too. So let's see, the next question. So obviously we've been talking a lot about college applications and everything that has to do with your college prep, your career prep, and it is very stressful. So this next question is, in a stress culture where everything has now become increasingly competitive, how would you recommend trying to do things for school and college, but also having time for yourself? So kind of that self-care. Anyone can pitch in.
So I want to touch on this because that's something that we actually talked about during my last semester of college. Something that my professor was telling us, she was like, as a teacher, you're going to have so many decisions you have to make on a daily basis. You literally need to schedule in time for yourself. And I think that was like the best piece of advice they gave us. Because of how stressful college is going to get and like all of the different exams, so many different classes that you're trying to keep track of, like you're going to have so much on your calendar. If you don't put in that time to schedule something for yourself, like say this Friday, I know this event is going to happen. I'm going to put it on my calendar. So no matter what happens, I go to this event because this is going to be like my stress-free time. Like schedule that in, or have like weekly lunch dates with friends. Like make sure you just schedule it ahead of time, and that will kind of, you won't have to think about it because you look at your calendar. It's like, oh, there's this time for me that I'm going to like decompress, like reduce that stress, kind of figure out what me and my friends are up to, like, just a time to catch up and, be more in tune with yourself.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. College can get overwhelming. Like there's always going to be, you always feel that competitive kind of drive from everybody else. And you feel like in the back of your mind that everybody's studying 24/7. And you're like, oh, how can I get to the top of the class? I don't understand how everybody's doing so well. But just know that there are people with you who are also struggling. And those people that look like they're on the top of the food chain per se, they're also not doing too well as it may perceive. College is hard for everyone. And so something that I found for myself is that exercise and spending time with friends in a scheduled manner weekly really, really helps. Because for me, at least, there's a lot of resources on college. I don't know about maybe this semester just because of COVID, but like having a gym nearby, just playing with friends, playing some soccer. Adnan knows about these soccer things that we used to do, playing soccer or playing basketball, things like that. Maybe even just going out for lunch, like the host was saying. Those things just kind of help ease your mind and they open your mind further, because when you're stressed, you're not going to be able to learn. That's just something that just won't happen. And so the more you're relaxed and the more you're willing to kind of just open yourself up, the more your mind is able to actually learn. And like Haris was saying, you'll be able to learn to comprehend and not just for the grade.
I think Sister Doha and Brother Yahya said it really well in terms of scheduling. And I was listening to a lecture a few days ago, and the guy said a valuable advice that I think it's applicable to any stage of life you're in. And that's, don't create to-do lists, because once you create a to-do list, you'll look at the to-do list and you'll get stressed out and it'll only carry you over to the next day, right? But you want to create a schedule, right? Go to your Google Calendar and say, okay, this block I will be doing this, right? This block I'll be playing basketball. This block I'll be studying for chemistry. Whereas if you had a to-do list like in a list fashion, you say play basketball, read Quran, study for chemistry. If you have it, you're just going to get stressed looking at it. Whereas if you have a structured schedule, you know that, okay, this time is blocked out. I can't do anything because I already scheduled it beforehand, and then move on with your day like that.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of staying disciplined when you make that schedule too. Yeah. So it's like if I'm going to study chemistry, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to go on my phone. I'm not going to talk to friends. I'm going to study my chemistry, because that time then will be productive. And then once again, like Adnan was saying, then it doesn't get pushed, and that adds more and more stress.
Yeah, I think one of the things about de-stressing is also engaging in behaviors that help reduce stress, right? It's not just enough to go hang out with friends, because you still might be stressed, right? The long-term solution is to make sure that you really are taking the schedules you make for yourself seriously. Because it's very easy to say, I'm going to study 4 hours of organic chemistry today. And then you pick up your phone and then it's 2 a.m. And it's because you really didn't hold yourself seriously when you made a promise to yourself. And so self-motivation is probably one of the hardest skills to really start developing. But it's the most rewarding skill you're going to have. And that is the thing that's going to make you less stressed, because the reason you're stressed is because there's so much to do. But if you spend your time efficiently, then really you won't be as stressed as you thought you would be. And that's what makes people really successful, is taking care of their time and making sure they're using their time wisely. So stress is going to exist no matter when or where you are. But if you engage in behaviors that help reduce it, you will definitely make it a lot easier for yourself.
And I think developing those behaviors, it's work in progress always, like even for the rest of your life is that way. So be aware that you may not be successful all of the time. That's okay. It might come a time where you ended up talking to your friend on social media till 2 a.m., but that's okay. That doesn't mean that you abandon that. Oh, it's not for me. It works for everyone else. It does not for me. I tried it. No, you haven't really tried it. You need to stick to it again and again, because that's going to be a lifelong goal for you to kind of master it, so it's something that you have to be like, okay, this is something I want to achieve as part of my growth as a person, and I will be successful at times I will fall, but I'm not going to give up on it.
Yeah, and like I know I'm not one of the panelists, but kind of just to like add on, like I feel like so far, yes, college is scary, college is hard, but like literally I feel like most of us panelists, we know each other through like MSA and through the fun and happier parts of college. And so take it easy, take it like one day at a time, and like inshallah, as much as yeah, it's scary and stressful, take time for yourself as well. And yeah, I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, I think actually that's really important. The best time of my life, because now we did party amazing around me, and I had a great time. And it was stressful, but it was a great time. So you can be stressed and have fun at simultaneously. So it's a great experience. Just time.
Yep. Okay, so now let me see. Another question we have is, so again, back to the topic of applying for colleges. There are a lot of unknown scholarship resources that aren't known to many students. How can high schoolers and even middle schoolers find these scholarships and apply for them? So this is more on scholarships.
Your high school admissions counselor should have a lot of information. I was able to get some scholarships through both my admissions counselors as well. And then honestly, Googling is amazing. There are so many opportunities available. And then also through your local county and your local school system, there should be scholarships available. So to contact the Board of Education and ask them what available scholarships there are. The best time to ask is in the beginning of your end of your junior year and the beginning of your senior year, so you can start applying for them before you get into a good college, right? So that at least the funds are there or it's available to you. So admissions counselors, Board of Education, and then Google, for sure.
If you have, if your high school has career centers, you should visit them. They have all kinds of information on that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, College Board I think has a big search engine for scholarships, and then also just like you may be associated with a certain, like you might have a certain identity, or like there's a lot of like Asian scholarships. Like you can just literally search up scholarships for Asian women. There'd be like tons of different organizations that are gonna give scholarships. Most of them you have to write essays for, but yeah, it's really easy to use Google, and then College Board as well.
Also, usually there's like the university scholarships, but within the university, each school, so like for example, School of Education, they have scholarships for education students. I'm sure the business school has like scholarships that are specific for just the business school. So don't just look at, like for example, I went to University of Maryland, don't just look at the University of Maryland scholarships, but also look at the specific scholarships within each college.
I think I'm not the best when it came to scholarships, but I think one scholarship that nobody should miss out on is the delegate scholarship. Search up your delegates within your district. I think some of you are from Virginia, some of you are from Maryland, some of you are out of the DMV. Check your district that you're in, and then see if your delegate offers scholarships. I know they're the most willing to give you scholarships because they're also looking for votes. So make sure you do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources out there like that everybody just mentioned. It's just about being like ambitious and kind of looking for it. And then if like certain applications are needed, it's just like filling those out as soon as possible, because there are a lot of people who are fighting for it.
Great. So the next question we have is, okay, so this is, what advice would you give to someone who wants to study in a field and attend a school that their parents are opposed to? Did anyone want to take that one? I think this is like referring to kids.
I will try to address this because this is something that I have gone through with my parents. There's two sides to this story, one is to kind of understand where your parents are coming from. I think, when you're in high school, you're in this developmental stage that you feel like you know better than everyone, and and you want to kind of establish your freedom and so on, and so you kind of dismiss what your parents not dismiss, but you try to not understand where they're trying to come from, so I would say that really the best way to approach this kind of thing with your parents is to sit down and have a real intellectual talk with them, because a lot of times, I will speak for myself, a lot of times coming like from the background that they come from. For example, in Bangladesh, where we are from, my parents are from, in Bangladesh, if you are not a doctor or engineer, you are a nobody. And no parents want their kids to be a nobody, because after all, my kid is the best in the class, right? Whether they actually are or not, in my mind, they are, absolutely, right? So you kind of have to sit down and talk to them and hear them out where they're coming from. Because a lot of times, it's that communication breakdown that you have. Like a lot of times parents don't know that United States is not Bangladesh, that you only have 2 tracks. There are lots of careers here that you can do very well, and you don't have to be a loser, by not going into those 2 fields. So, but I think it has to start with that respectful intellectual talk, and going back to that point of you doing your research. If you want to go to this school or pursue this career, what are you bringing? It's kind of like your argument. What are your arguments to them? So if they're saying, I want you to go pursue engineering, and you're saying, I don't like engineering, I don't like math, but here's what I want to do, and this is what I can do, this is the school I can go in, this is the career I can pursue, this is the farther education that I could do, look at the job market, look at, you have to kind of show them. At the end of the day, parents kind of treat their kids as kids, even though you may be in high school, you may be ready to, open your wing and fly away from the home and all that. But to parents, you're still a kid, unless you sit down and with respect, and you actually show them that, no, I actually know what I'm talking about. I did my research, and I understand where you are coming from, but the scenario is different for you in Bangladesh in the 1970s than it is different for me here in the 2020 in the United States. And look at and you have to you show them evidence, So I think just kind of having this attitude of, oh, they're not letting me live my life, they don't get me. Yeah, that's true, they don't get, but it's your job, if you want to live the life that you want to live, if you want them to respect you for what you are deciding, it's your job to convince them that, look, I've done my homework, I know what I'm talking about. It's not just like, oh, for example, I had this one talk, one of my student loved art, absolutely loved art, very passionate about it, very good at it. And being a Desi parent, art is not something that you pursue, because what are you going to do with art in their mind, right? So this student actually he did his research. He found out at Johns Hopkins they have medical art, where you actually they combine art and biology together. So in those textbooks and in those things, they have those drawings through which you can even do computer designing through those art. They actually have a program, and you actually have a career that pays pretty well. But now, if you don't give your parents those kind of information and you just say that, you know, I want to do art, in your parents' mind, or you're going to be living off of me the rest of our life. What are you going to do once we die? That's legit for them to think that. You know, they're actually being a good parent in thinking that. So I would just say, you know, sit down, do your homework, do your research, and really, if you want them to treat you like an adult, like the adult, do your research, show that you know what you're talking about. You are becoming a woman, you are becoming a man. You need to show that. It's not just the lip service, but you are actually coming to the table with convincing pieces to your parents. And, you know, again, I go back, be respectful. Don't be argumentative about it. And if you really feel like this is not really going anywhere, you know, reach out to someone in the community that your parents respect and talk to them. Sometimes that also kind of opens the parents' minds up if they're very close to the set of arguments that you are giving them, you know, in a respectful manner, then that also works. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much. So I think we have 18 minutes left for this panel discussion. It's been going great and we've been learning a lot. So I think I'll be going maybe one or two more questions and then we can end it there. So the next question I have is, what are the added benefits of doing exceptionally well in your college courses? So I think what they mean is that, for example, in high school, it helps you get into a better college. So if you do good in college, what's next?
You get into good graduate school. That's one. Number two, doing exceptionally well in college means that you understand your material. So when it comes to if you're an EE or if you're in computer engineering, when you go for your interviews and you actually get exams and interviews and questions, you ace those interviews and those questions, and you show them that you know what you're talking about. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely no downsides. Do the best that you can do and be successful, because that shows success and good letters of recommendation, et cetera, when you go to work. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you're going directly into the job market, it helps you with, like you were just saying, like with interviews, as well as like they also look at GPA. They also look at how well you did in like certain core courses that are like really important. That's like indicative of how well you're doing. So yeah, it's always great to do your best in every kind of adventure that you go on, inshallah.
Haris was talking about coding questions. I can speak for one. I actually have the book right here, right next to me. I was studying right before I got on this call, but it's the book contains a lot of material that you should already know from classes. So doing well in classes allows you to, if you look at this book, you can easily like just brush up on it, easy, maybe a day or two, and then you can potentially interview for the big four companies, Amazon, Google, so on and so forth. So you really want to solidify your understanding. And Hara said it previously, you don't want to learn to get an A, you really want to learn to understand the material, not to get a job, obviously, but maybe build something out of it. Whatever you learn from this class that you took in college, you use it to make a positive impact on the world. Maybe you take an environmental science class and that helps you reduce carbon emissions by like 20%. Or do some coding class, build a project that helps the elderly or helps your neighbors, helps your family. So you really want to not, do these classes for an A, which is great, but you also want to learn to make a positive impact on the world.
Yeah, going off of that, I think we need to recognize too that college is very different than high school. In high school, you wanted to get the A because you want to get to college. But when you're in college, you're there, and this is like what is essentially what the rest of your life is going to be based off of. So your understanding of the material, your understanding of these topics, it's not really a question answer kind of thing. It becomes more discussion based, like you're really getting to open up your view of the world. And a lot of colleges require you to take a diverse range of classes. So you're not just taking science classes, like you're going to be taking some writing, some, like I know as an education major, like I didn't just take education courses, like I had to take science courses. I took a lot of sociology and psych courses because that's stuff I was interested in. And like taking these classes, you end up learning so much about the world around you that really being in that class no longer is about getting that A, but it's really about just understanding the world and understanding how everything is so connected. And like when you can make those connections and understand how everything is interrelated, how like the health is related with the education, is related with the like economics, like once you get those connections and engage in those discussions, it's mind-blowing. Like it's so different than high school. So like kind of try to leave that high school mentality behind, like that I need an A to succeed, because that's just not college.
Okay, so Nazifa, can we do one more question or?
Yeah, I think we can do one more.
Okay, cool. So, okay, I feel like I should have asked this question way in the beginning, but when is the best time to start preparing for college?
We're starting the kids young these days. It starts in kindergarten. No, but like in all seriousness, education is changing so much these days that I feel like for those of you that are in middle school, you're going to notice those changes. By the time you get to high school, a lot of the like content that you're going to be doing is going to be a lot more discussion based, like seeing what I'm teaching in my classroom. Like I teach second grade, and the kind of work that I'm doing with them is stuff that I wasn't doing until I was in high school. Like asking my students to explain their reasoning behind how they got a math answer, or like asking them to find the text evidence to support their like reading. Like all of this is stuff that you kind of learn in high school. Finding out how to do research, like this is stuff that is starting younger now. So I think a lot of it you can start as early as middle school, like just kind of go out there and explore what's out in the world. Go to all the things your parents are telling you to go to. I know when I was in middle school, I gave my parents a lot of grief. Like I did not want to go to those women engineering classes. Like I did not want to take coding, but like it all helps you out in the end. So start now. Like there's really no time frame. Like I think start as early as you can.
And one thing I would say, teaching in high school, I know, like she said, teaching has changed a lot within, I would say, last 10 years. It has changed a lot. Those project-based learning, the PBL lessons that teachers do, and you have to work with people. And I know with groups of people, I know it can be so annoying. Like, you're working in a group of four, three are contributing, one is not, and you're just kind of like this, how do I get this person to work? And it is frustrating. It's very frustrating. I think I would say, I would recommend that take that as a challenge, how to include that person into that project, and instead of doing the work for that person, which nowadays with Google Docs and Google Classroom and everything, which teachers find out anyhow that who did how much work anyway. But I think to prepare you for the next step beyond college, how to work with people, how to collaborate in whatever career setting that you're at, that there are going to be people that are going to leech off of you. They're going to have that kind of a mentality that I'm going to do the minimal, others will pick up whatever I don't. But that is a skill. Take that as a challenge, that what can I do to get this person more involved? Okay, last project, I was not so successful. Let me try a different approach with someone who's not pulling their share, and definitely use all your resources. But I would say that the type of teaching, I think teacher standing and giving lecture, those days are gone in high school. Many of you have realized that. It's more project based. With that comes challenges. Instead of kind of complaining and moping. And yeah, do that, complain and mope, do whatever you need to do. But at the end, take it as a challenge that, no, I am not going to do this person's work. What are we going to do? Come up with, brainstorm, do things to do that. And those are the kind of things, believe me, as a teacher, when I'm walking around when my kids are doing work in those groups, I'm listening for those things, like, what are they doing? So, going back to those college, writing a recommendation letter, I'm looking at those things, like, oh, I remember that person struggled with that, science fair project is a group of 3 people, and, one of them was not contributing. The student came and expressed things to me, and I was observing to see. I gave them some ideas, and they're trying to come up with ways to kind of be more collaborative in ways, and those it takes you have to think outside the box to do that. But believe me, teachers are noticing how you handle those situations. Definitely go to the teacher, but don't expect the teacher will solve everything for you at all of the time. So
any more comments? Okay, so as we conclude this panel, why don't we go around one last time with all of you panelists? And if you have any last advice or words of wisdom or something for the rest of the students, both middle schoolers and high schoolers who are here today. Namira, if you want to start.
I just want to say thank you for having me as a panelist again, and that, for a lot of the questions about like college applications and stuff, you're gonna be stressed the first semester of your senior year. You're gonna have to be writing all these different essays, trying to get these recommendations, doing all these applications. But just know that once it gets after like January, you're pretty much gonna be chilling. Like, you'll still do well in your classes, obviously, still put in the effort, but like, you'll get there. And it's gonna seem like really stressful, but it'll all get better in the end, inshallah.
Whoever wants to go next.
Okay, I will go. Oh, sorry, you can go.
Go ahead.
Okay. The only thing I wanted to add is that I know we're talking about all this college and all this stuff, how to get a realistic idea of college, applying, doing well, and all that kind of stuff. But at the end, I just wanted to say that be ready to not do well in college, especially the first couple of semesters, and don't let that deviate you from what you wanted to start out doing. Okay, so for example, I'll just give you an example in biology. You may like something in biology, and then you may major in biology, and then find out that you have to learn about plants, and you hate learning about plants. You absolutely hate it. But that doesn't mean you abandon not pursuing that career. So you are going to come across difficulty in whatever you choose to do, but don't let that difficulty hold you back or change your major just because you did not get an A and you've been a high flyer all your life, and all of a sudden in college first semester you get a C in a class, your major class. That is not indicative of you not being good in that field. All it means is that you need to change your strategy. So be ready to fall, but not stay down.
One piece of advice that I wish I told myself when I was in high school is that I know the summer camp is geared towards computer science, coding, and so on and so forth. So I would say that the projects that you're doing in the summer camp, make sure you document it well, and put it on your resume when you go apply to college. I have a friend that he made a simple to-do list in high school, I believe, and he ended up going to Harvard. So the things that you make doesn't have to be groundbreaking. Just do something small, even build your own website and showcase it when you do apply to college. So do something impactful. I'm talking from the sense of coding because I'm a computer engineer and talking closer to my realm. But in terms of coding, try to do a small project and showcase it. And one last thing, I think someone mentioned if they have questions, how do you contact the panelists? Inshallah, I'm sure the admins can share contacts, and feel free to reach out to any one of us.
Can I add one more thing to what he said? Two girls in Kansas, very entrepreneurial. You know what they did? Two hijabi girls, they went around to these small businesses that they have in their community, very, very, very small businesses, and they went to them and offered their help to build some kind of a website for them for free.
Actually,
so just small stuff.
Abraham Darwish just here. That was his entire business model. He would go to local businesses. He created his own business. That's what he did. For his entire 4 years of college, he just went to local businesses, local dealerships, local doctors, whatever, and said, if you need a website or an app, I'm your guy and I'll make him for you. And he got paid, alhamdulillah, very well. He was able to do it, and he gave him really good worldwide experience. When he was interviewing for Facebook, he used these kinds of tips to say, hey, this is how I know my material really well. So yeah, sure, things help. My general advice is, for those of you that are now moving on from high school to college, these are going to be the most formative years of your life. So kind of aside from the academics, the people you surround yourself with, the organizations you go and be a part of, the way you carry yourself, it's going to determine how you're going to live the rest of your life. And this is also pertinent information for just you in general in high school. Surrounding yourself with good people, making good decisions for yourself, being good to your family members, especially your parents, these are going to lead to, Allah will put barakah in your life through these things. So don't belittle the good things that when you do to the people around you and the connection you have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's what real success is going to be. And when you do reach those milestones and you become a better person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make ways out for you from places you never even expect. So put in your 100% effort into being as good as you can academically, but at the same time, make sure you're treating the people around you well. You're surrounding yourself with good people. Because again, this is how their entire life, your trajectory of your entire life is going to be determined by these next 5 or 6 years. So just inshallah, focus, work hard, and be the best person you can be, inshallah.
And my last advice along those lines, don't let other people's successes or failures influence you. So you're going to see a lot of people around you. If they're being successful, don't let that deter you and say, oh, wow, I can never get to that level. You probably can. You most likely can, inshallah. If you apply yourself, you drive forward. And don't look at others who are, maybe having like some difficulties in their studies or things and be like, hey, okay, that's fine. It's acceptable to be at that level. And maybe for them it is, but maybe for you, you hold yourself to higher standards. Just having that self-driven motivation is a big thing that I only found halfway or even like 3/4 of the way through college. And it's something that I wish I had developed earlier, to just have that driven intentions and always being aware of what you're doing and always kind of the bigger picture. Along what Harsh was saying, if you're always kind of remembering Allah and kind of doing it for the sake of Allah, Allah will put barakah in what you're doing, inshallah.
So I guess my last piece of advice for all of you, what everyone said, mashallah, is like on point. But also just make sure you keep your mindset in check. A lot of times when we hit a roadblock, we start to have all that set a negative self-talk. We're like, oh, look at just like Brother Yahya is saying, like everyone around me is doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm only here. Like recognize that everyone's timeline is different, but also your mindset affects what your output is by so much. So if you have this mindset where it's like, okay, yes, I didn't do well here, but if I redirect my focus, if I try a new strategy, if I look at this resource, I might be able to navigate this a different way. All of that's going to help you in the long run to kind of be able to have the outcome that you intend. So just check your mindset and recognize what everyone was saying, your journey is so much different than everybody else's journey. So what might work for you might not work for others. What works for others might not work for you. So you just kind of have to keep going back and forth and stay positive.
Yeah, and to quickly add to that, I remember when I was doing bioengineering, I was so like set on graduating in 4 years. And like alhamdulillah, I did, but I wish like I would go back and be like, you know what, you just take your time, and if you have to graduate a semester later, it's okay. Yeah, so like Bill has said, your timeline, everyone's different, and inshallah, everyone will do the best they can that Allah wants for them. So thank you to all our panelists for giving your time. I know this is a long discussion, but we answered a lot of very important questions for these middle schoolers and high schoolers, and I hope that you all learned a lot, and inshallah you take their advice to heart in your future. So yeah, Nazifa, do you want to conclude?
Okay, Assalamualaikum again.
Sorry.
It's okay. So to the students, don't leave yet because there's still a few announcements we need to make regarding the program. But first, I want to thank the panelists for being here. All the panelists, I know one of them isn't here right now, even Brother Adnan for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of this with us. Like speaking to the students right now, all of our panelists are at different points at their academic careers, right? Like some of them are going into or seeking professional school, some of them are in jobs right now, some of them are still in the process of getting their degree, right? But the thing is, learning is like a lifelong process. There's always going to be a new development in computer science. There's always going to be a new development in just the STEM field, and in the non-STEM field, there's always like new methods of teaching that's going on, new method or like new fields that are coming up. Because like a couple of years ago, I remember like when my older brother was just going into college, which is like when I was in 3rd grade, right? Cybersecurity wasn't even a field in any college nearby. It wasn't even a major, right? He didn't even consider it until after like a couple of years of community college, and he was like, wow, there's this new major that's like suddenly like developing really quickly. So the point I'm getting at here is, you know, the world is constantly changing and we're always adapting to it. So Jazakallah for all the panelists for being here. As for the announcements that I had, so because college and career prep is such a like a broad topic and it affects our students very like more close to home than social media probably did, since a lot of our students are in the process or will be applying to colleges next year, inshallah, or this year. Because of that, the admins decided that on Monday during break time, what we're gonna do, some of the topics or questions that we didn't answer, we can have a 30 minutes about it. Any lingering questions that are still there, right? We're not as good as the panelists, but we'll try our best, inshallah. Okay, but as for our weekly feedback survey, Sister Nazifa I don't know if she put it in the chat, but she's gonna put it in the chat, and if some of the students left early because I saw some people came in and left. But you know, we're gonna send it through email, we'll put it in the WhatsApp group, and we'll put it through the chat here. So don't leave until you take the weekly survey. So that's really all. I'm really thankful for our distinguished panelists for being here. Like, I learned something, and I'm a first year college or second year college student now, and like I learned so much from this as well, which is saying a lot because college is really like a growth process. Like first semester, I thought I knew what I was doing when I was coming in, and then I realized I really didn't know what I was doing. Being a 4.0 student in high school doesn't mean that much when you go into college, because then you're like, oh my goodness, there's so many 4.0 students that are struggling too. So yeah, it's rough in the beginning, but inshallah, we all kind of learn how to adapt to it, which I thought was a really good takeaway from this program. So yeah, okay, so the feedback survey is in the chat right now. So students, please take that before you leave, or at least copy the link down or put it somewhere so you can do that by tonight, please. Other than that, that's all we have.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome everyone.
Have a wonderful day, guys.
Alaikum.
Oh yeah, we'll also include in an email the panelists' email information, because someone asked a question about that earlier. So yeah, we'll include that.
Alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.